Listening to WJOB 1230 M 104.7 FM. It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin. It's a two for a week, folks. You get me 2 days in a row. 845-1100 is the number to call. But let's begin with traffic and weather. Traffic in northwest Indiana is actually moving pretty well. With the exception of Klein Avenue, there still is the resurfacing and construction on Klein Avenue, so be careful there. Going across the line into Illinois, things look really good right now. The Skyway is in decent shape. 8094, 294, I-57, the Bishop Ford, even the Dan Ryan doesn't look too bad this early, although that'll change pretty quickly. But right now, it's actually clear sailing until you get to Pershing, which is just south of 35th, so you're moving in pretty good shape. The Stevenson, the Eisenhower, and the Kennedy all look pretty decent too. So not bad for a Wednesday morning in August. And don't forget, it's hump day, as Mark from Hobart reminded me this morning, as he always does. So good morning, Mark. And let's see what weather is going to bring us. Good morning, Lynette.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 71 degrees with highs of 84 and lows of 67. It's going to be mostly cloudy and humid with some rain and a thunderstorm in the morning, then a heavy thunderstorm later in the afternoon. Then tomorrow, on Thursday, we'll be having highs of 76 and lows of 66 with periods of clouds and sunshine with widely separated thunderstorms and humid. Then Friday, we'll be having highs of 84 and lows of 68 with partial sunshine with a thunderstorm and humid.
All right, and there you have it, traffic and weather. 845-1100 is the number to call. Lots going on this morning, and I've got to ask the question. Is it time for America to have a third party? There's a lot of frustration, obviously, amongst Democrats with the almost takeover by the Democratic Socialist Committee. Most Democrats don't align themselves with some of the socialist and extremist views that are being bandied about by Bernie Sanders and his ilk. And I think there's a lot of frustration. I've heard it from even local Democrats, local elected officials, that there is no way that they're going to stand behind some of the things that are coming out these days, especially some of the extremists, the communist views. Hong in Wisconsin and El Said in Michigan, if he continues to lead in the election for the U.S. Senate. So there's a lot of frustration on the Democratic side, and frankly, there's a lot of frustration on the Republican side. We are told we are close to another deal for the Strait of Hormuz and hostilities with Iran, but I think a lot of people have heard that song before. It's kind of like playing an old LP where the record gets stuck over and over. Donald Trump says, well, we're talking, we're working on it, it's going to happen. But it's gone on now for several months. Gas prices don't seem to be dropping, which I really don't understand why the Trump administration isn't leaning on the refiners and the distributors, because the fact is that gas or the price of oil has dropped substantially. In fact, this week it dropped down. It's currently at about $74 a barrel, which puts it just about $8 to $10 higher than it was a year ago before all these hostilities began. So I think people are frustrated with the lack of action on pricing and some of the other things that Donald Trump promised. So the question is, are we ready for a third party in this nation? Can you continue to allow both parties to be taken over by extremists? The majority of Democrats are not extremists. They're not the extreme left. Majority of Republicans are not the extreme right. And we have some real problems and challenges in this country right now. So that's the question of the day. And by the way, again, I'm going to be here today and tomorrow, so we can talk plenty. 845-1100, we've got callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Last night, watching one of the conservative cable shows, they talked about the rumor that Trump was going to, shall we say, come down hard on the oil companies to reduce the price of energy at the pump. And some said it was a good idea. Some said no, the oil companies are boom and bust, and they so it to be not capitalistic to bend their arms about this issue. But
Well, I think that's nuts.
last
I
night,
think that's nutty, though, Walt. The fact is that the price of oil affects everything else. So if you want to bring down the price of groceries, you need to bring down the price of fuel. If you want to take a burden off the American public, you need to bring down the price of fuel. If you look at inflation, the inflation report that just came out, it was quite good because of the dip in the price of oil a month ago. So I think Trump needs to lean on those people and really get them to drop that price and drop it substantially again. Oil was trading yesterday in the mid 70s. Before all the hostilities, including Midnight Hammer, before all of those hostilities began a year ago, oil prices were in the upper 60s. So we need to get back to that price. Don't you agree?
oh, of course, and we have a primary coming up here in November, so there's political implications to that as well. But some people on the Republican side, they're so enamored with capitalistic purism, they just forget about the political aspects of things. But that's just the way it is.
Well, let me ask you the bigger question that I threw out this morning. Are we moving toward a third party in this nation? I mean, Walt, you're conservative, but you don't agree with everything that's going on with some of the Republican stands are just ridiculous. They're just a little bit way out there. The Democrats, obviously, there are all kinds of issues with the Democrats these days, with the socialist and communist Democrats running. Is it time maybe for somebody to stake the ground in the middle and say we're a centrist country, we're not extremist, and to start a whole new party?
Well, sure, but here's the problem. Most people are wedded to one degree or another to either the Republicans or the Democrats, and there have been efforts for third-party things, and they rarely last, and that's just the way it is. And I served for 6 years as a Republican precinct captain in Illinois. And I kind of knew that already, but having that experience, that was one of the great lessons I learned, that people complain and rant and rave against the two major parties, but at the end of the day, anybody who tries to do something different doesn't last. It doesn't go.
But if you're a Democrat right now, can you really support some of the extreme agenda that's being promoted by the Democratic Party? I mean, I know plenty of Democrats, and again, I've been a lifelong registered Democrat. I don't agree with any of this stuff. This stuff is in outer space. This is ridiculous. And at the same time, I have plenty of friends that are registered Republicans, and they're very annoyed with some of the extreme views that exist in the Republican Party. And their point is we can't basically continue down this path long term, that it'll ruin the party as well. So there are disenchanted Democrats, there's disenchanted Republicans, sure. And it's probably more so than it's been, at least in my lifetime. And I just think that that maybe, just maybe, it's time to pull together. What was the name of the senator out of West Virginia? Manchin. And he was on Face the Nation the other day, and he said, look, there's no way that he's going to support Hassan Piker. And James Carville, by the way, says the same thing. And you look at some of the frustration that exists in the Republican ranks, which, again, there's quite a bit. Maybe it's time to say, you know what, folks, we can work together. There's a large enough group, and maybe it's time for a third party to emerge. And it won't be easy, but I think it's something that has to be considered. I brought up, in fact, when he was here a few weeks back, Mayor McDermott, here's a guy that is a Democrat, but he's being chastised because he's working with the state of Indiana, which are Republican leaders, to try and bring the Bears to Hammond. And it's the most ridiculous argument I've ever heard. He is being told by party officials in the Democratic Party that he should not be working with the Republicans to bring the Bears here. It's the biggest game changer that Hammond would ever see in its entire existence. And yet people are saying, oh, no, you can't do that, Mayor. You can't work with them. I mean, maybe it's time for local officials to rise up and say, I'm not going to be dictated to by the party. I'm going to have a party affiliation, but I'm not going to have them dictate to me. So I think there's the possibility, at least.
Last night was a great night for the Socialist Democrats of America, or SDA, or crypto communists, as far as I'm concerned. These are some of the items that they support: no borders, therefore no border patrol or ICE, no jails for criminals, of course, defund the cops and the military.
Yep.
Wealth tax, reform the Supreme Court, which means packing the Supreme Court.
Show me, by the way, show me a resident of Northwest Indiana that agrees with defunding the police and getting rid of all jails. You're going to get rid of jails. So somebody commits rape, they commit murder. Well, we're just going to let them out and tell them don't do that again. I mean, how absolutely insane is this? This is insanity. And you're going through this list, and the vast majority of American people want a secure border. Okay, they're divided on what they want to do with the people that got here illegally, but they're in lockstep when it comes to the idea of having a secure border and the idea of not having a military. Are you kidding me? How about this crazy in Wisconsin? The Democratic nominee, or the supposed Democratic nominee for the governor of Wisconsin, wants to do away with Thanksgiving because she says that it's hurtful to indigenous people. Thanksgiving, if anything, sent the message of unity and living together. I mean, the Native Americans basically bailed out the settlers and basically helped them learn how to grow crops here in the United States, at what became the United States, and basically celebrated with a dinner that we replicate every single year. It's all about unity. She wants to get rid of Christmas. She says Christmas is an unfair holiday. Well, you want to get rid of Christmas. She wants to get rid of Valentine's Day. She wants to get rid of everything. I mean, this woman's a complete nut.
She's against tipping.
Yes, she's against tipping. But of course, she also says that people should just work the hours that they want to and be entitled to a job. So how about Lynette gets up right now and says, "Hey, I'm going home," and just shuts down the station for the day? How about you go to Strachan Van Til and the clerk says, "Nah, I'm not going to wait on you. I'm tired. I'm taking a break right now." And everybody else does the same, and that's okay in her mind. She's a real nut. She makes El Said look conservative. She's so nutty.
Given the election of a Muslim for mayor of New York, and then likely the Democrats are going to be putting up a Muslim for the Senate, and that has encouraged elements of American society to push Sharia law. How about that?
Well, Sharia law. Look, I'll tell you what. What really makes me laugh is when I see women on television talking about Sharia law as being an option. Are you kidding me? You're going to wear basically a robe covering your face and your entire body. You're going to be subverted to whatever the will is of a man. Are you kidding me? It's just crazy. Hey, Walt, we've got some additional callers, so I'm going to move on. 845-1100, and we've got full phone lines. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Tom. Welcome back.
Well, thank you, Ron. What do you say? Is it time for a third party?
I don't think so. I've never known a third party to win anything.
All right. Are you okay? Let me ask you this: you're a lifelong Democrat. Do you support? Wait a minute. Do you support doing away with the police doing away with prisons, doing away with people with privately owned corporations. Do you support the idea of getting rid of Thanksgiving and Christmas and the idea of some of the other wacky, stupid ideas that they're coming up with right now? Do you agree with those views?
I'm going to answer your question. Hell no.
Hell no. Okay, hell no. And so the question, the issue is that you've got frustrations on the right as well. You've got a lot of people who don't agree with some of the extremist views that Republicans have. And by the way, I'm not even talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about there are some people in that party that have some real extreme views. So
tell me about it. And I might talk briefly about some of those things. Cause I'm going to be attending the March on Washington, I guess, because I don't want to ride there and then ride right back. But let me just tell you this. I am a Democrat, but I'm an American first, okay?
Okay.
I'm a people person. And regardless to Democrat, Republican, if something is done, with the ICE thing going on, I think there were some bad mistakes with ICE.
Okay,
right now.
but you said before you're for a closed border, but these people, the Social Democrats, say we should not have a closed border. We should have an open border. They claim that rapists and murderers should not be held in prison. I mean, this isn't fantasy. This is stuff they've actually said on television and interviews.
I answered your question. I'm a capitalist, okay? I believe in making all kinds of money. I'm a capitalist, okay?
Right.
I'm not a socialist, okay? However, I just watched this situation in Michigan where you have a socialist would be the primary Democratic primary running against a Republican.
Right.
Now, some things that they say, how they make them so popular, and same in D.C., that people who rather downtrodden, right now, there's a lot of people, whether they believe black, white, or ever, there's some things, I believe there ought to be health care for all. That's my opinion. I believe that we have a lot of people who call this radio and saying that we can't get this and we can't afford it. And so what they're saying, it's appealing to some of those people. That's how they get to be popular, because rather the Republicans or the Democrats are not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And that's the point. But that's the point, Ron. Tell me this, and again, hate to put you on the spot, but you're a lifelong Democrat. Tell me, would you be able, if El Said wins the primary in Michigan, would you be able to vote for him? If you were eligible to vote in Michigan, could you vote for the guy?
Well, I'd have to look at the Republican. I'd have to look at the Republican too. I'm just saying.
Well, it's Mike Rogers, who's kind of a centrist. So
I don't know.
Would you vote? So you could potentially, though. You would. Wait a minute. You're telling me that you could conceivably vote for a guy that believes in all this crazy stuff about open borders and defunding the police and getting rid of prisons and getting rid of the Department of Defense and all that?
I think I answered your question. Hell no, I don't like that. But I'd have to see, because there's extreme on both sides. Okay.
Well, but that's my point. And my point is that maybe it's time with the dissatisfaction with the people in the middle that maybe, and you're right, Ron, you're 100% right. It's never worked before, but something's got to give, and maybe that's the option, is to add a third party. And maybe it takes a while to get there, but we just can't continue with this craziness.
Now let me. Can I say what I basically
very fast, because we do have additional callers. Absolutely.
That's what I was trying to get through, because right now, I think I told you, in America, I don't like what's going on, okay? I do not like what's going on. I don't like this war. Now, right now, the August the 28th, 1963, March on Washington, there was 250,000 people who attended, and it was about jobs and freedom. It was led by Dr. Martin Luther King, MLK. At the time, John Kennedy was the president, but Lyndon B. Johnson, as a peaceful protest in Washington. That's what happened. There was no violence taking over. Peaceful protest. And they was heard. So that was necessary. So this year, I was actually, I'm not going to be take a bus to Washington and come back. I say, a round trip like that? Now, no way. It'll kill me sitting on the bus and coming back. But I think it's necessary. I wanted to go. I would probably fly to Washington. And people say, why would he go there? Martin Luther King started trouble. He was about a nonviolent person, my understanding.
Martin Luther King had a lot of very good ideas, but what's really interesting is if you read history, do you know who largely opposed the March on Washington?
Who opposed it?
John F. Kennedy.
He opposed it.
Kennedy did not want the March on Washington because he was concerned. He was concerned that it was going to affect his reelection.
But what happened? Lyndon Baines Johnson was able to do this when he taken over. It taken over, and it was about the war and it was about other things. So Lyndon Baines Johnson, as a result of what Dr. Martin Luther King did, was about nonviolence, and they were able to achieve all those things. Because see, sometimes I don't live in terms of say what white people did to me back then. I live in a different area. There was some bad things happening in Arkansas where I came up. But again, I don't live that, and you heard me talk about that, working together. And I'm just simply saying that there was a reason. Anytime I see violence in my community, I don't like it. I don't care what color they're. I believe that we ought to have law people.
If we could relive 1963, I'd be right there with you. But I am being told by Lynette I got to cut this short. Take care.
Okay.
All right, 845-1100. Stay on hold. We've got full lines. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. And don't forget the TuneIn app and YouTube Live. We'll be right back.
Need clean energy without the junk? I'm Jim Diedlow. I used to live on burgers, football, basketball, baseball. Now I'm gluten-free and more into biking, golf, and yoga. But I still need energy. That's why I love Paradise, developed by Emily D. Edwards right here in Cherville. My favorite is Paradise Packs Strawberry with gluten-free pretzels. Find it soon at Strachan Van Til or at spreadparadise.com.
Free summer music is still rocking at Fox Point. Our Wednesday night concert series brings Trippin' Billies, the 1985, Elton Jeff and the Honky Cats, Mike and Joe, and Dick Diamond and the Dusters. Friday Night Lights brings you Gold Dust Dreams and One of These Nights on August 21st, and Mexico and El Corazon on September 4th. Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is just minutes from I-8094, and parking is free. Visit foxpoint.org for our full schedule. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
The best just got better. Tech Credit Union is proud to celebrate being recognized with Best of the Region, Best CEO, and Best Banker. To celebrate, we're offering 3 special CD offers with rates up to 4.5% APY for a limited time. Visit techcu.org or stop by your nearest Tech Credit Union branch or call 800-276-8324 to learn more. Tech Credit Union, the better option for people and communities we serve. Member NCUA. Minimum deposit required. Offer subject to change. Visit techcu.org for complete details.
IBEW Local 697 electrical contractors bring the highest standard of electrical work to Lake County homes, schools, and businesses. From everyday fixes to once-in-a-lifetime builds, we don't just get the job done, we get it done right and up to the highest safety standards. When you need electrical work, hire the professionals who power Indiana. Powering Indiana, Lake County, bringing excellence to the job, creating a brighter future for our community.
All right, folks, we're back, and there's Lori Whelan walking out of the studio. She's here this morning, so good morning, Lori, and good morning, America. We've got lots of callers, so let's go right back to the calls. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
I love the poorly educated. I think Trump said that. And I don't know what world my good buddy Ron Madlock was in. He's a friend of mine. And he said everything was peaceful in 1967.
63.
Then why did Mayor Daley say, shoot to kill, shoot to maim, you're not going to ruin my city?
Well, things were not peaceful in 63, and that's where he actually was talking about, but it wasn't peaceful then either. I mean, there was unbelievable strife and violence in the South at the time. There wasn't a lot of violence in the North, but it certainly was in the South. And look, the Civil Rights Act, I've told this story before. If you look at how the Civil Rights Act got passed, it didn't get passed by the Democrats. It got passed by the Republicans. The Democrats held it up repeatedly. It was a Representative, Howard Smith, who basically thought he could kill it by adding the word sex, the protection for sex. And then he went home, and so did everybody else who thought they had it killed. The Democrats thought they killed it by adding protection for sex, and their wives, their mistresses, and their girlfriends basically talked them into passing it. And that's a true story. That is not a fable. It is an absolute true story on how it got passed. So...
Now, Ron, and truthfully mean this is the best caller WJOB's got. Now, he mentioned many babies, no fathers or something.
Yes.
That's because of the Democratic Great Society program by Lyndon Johnson. You could thank Lyndon Johnson.
I will agree with you. I will agree with you on that as well. In fact, I have a good friend who's African American who says that all the time, that the Great Society largely ruined black families. Black families were a hallmark of their ethnicity, their race. The family unit of black families was extremely strong in the United States. And then they came out with the Great Society and gave people opportunities to pull themselves out of poverty and living in ghettos and all those things. But they basically said, well, you can't do it if you're married, and you can't do it if you're this and you're that. And they basically destroyed a lot of the cohesiveness and a lot of the values that existed in many of those families. And again, I've had plenty of African American males tell me that.
Well, like I say, I hope Ron realizes it. He's really a closet Republican, but the
I don't think he'll agree with you
Hong
on that
Dong Franciscan Hong cartoon is out. Marge is laughing at her name is Franciscan Hong. She's running for the governor of Wisconsin. Now, that scares me because I'm up there in the Redneck Riviera, and this woman has some real views. I know you covered it, but this is the Progressive Democrat Socialist Party. And even I've talked to the inside of Hammond politicians, and they are afraid of this Progressive Democrat Socialist Party on the next election.
Well,
but I do want to say one thing now.
Go ahead.
Hold on. I got to run. It's my turn to buy for Mayor Tom breakfast. Now, you got to realize something here. I'm not a lunatic. What I had to do and make cartoons about McDermott was to get a shot spotter. You have to realize this. And I always want you to remember that. If something happens to me, I've been an activist for a long time. I helped save the Gibson Woods. I got 9 more acres through Deedlow, helped shut down BioGreen. Very active in the Crime Watch. Got us a shot spotter, another tool in the box.
Right.
I was ridiculed that I was listening to the gun range. No, well, police don't shoot through houses. So now after I got this shot spotter, I laid off. You have to understand how I work.
Well, I just want to know when you're buying me breakfast. That's what I want to know. When are you buying me breakfast? You call in all the time and say, I've got to go, I'm going to go have breakfast. When are you buying me breakfast?
Well, for the Christmas show, we got some really good stuff for the Christmas show.
I know, you're already working
We got the lead caller award. But I got to go.
You're working
on
it.
Yeah, I got to go and tell Mayor Tom it's my turn to buy. No hard feelings now.
I will
gotta
make
go.
sure he knows. Take care. 845-1100, plenty of callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you? So, do you feel we need a third party?
No, we need all of us voters to put somebody in office that when they campaign to do something for us, not for them, for us, then vote for that person and put it in writing, sign your name that you're going to do something
Can you support any of this craziness out of Hong or El Said? Get rid of prisons, get rid of the police, get rid of the War Department, get rid of the borders. Can you support any of that?
No,
okay, can you support?
Do not get rid.
You're disenfranchised. You're disenfranchised. You're saying with people who've been elected to office who don't get things done, and there's a lot of criticism right now about the Trump administration not getting things done. So, basically, is it not time to consider a third party?
Yeah, it's time to consider a third party. But when you look at who's running on the ballot up here in Northwest Indiana, state of Indiana, and their campaign that they're going to do this, they're going to do this. You know, I look at when I watch the news and I see these campaigns of what the politician says they are going to do. Are they doing it for us, or are they doing it just for them to put money in their pocket, make them look good? They get in there, they get their pension from us that we pay for, that we voted to get them in.
Where is the law right now that I mean, the legislation's still out there, but why haven't they passed the prohibition on basically insider trading for Congress? Why haven't they passed? Why haven't they passed a simple law that says that you have to show an ID to vote? Okay, don't add all the other extremes to it. Just make it. You have to have a valid ID that shows you're an American citizen to vote. You've got Mamdani in New York who says, well, we're going to build these new subsidized grocery stores, but you're going to have to show an ID to buy groceries there. So he contradicts himself. But yet we don't need voter ID. Where is the bill that basically says that transgender athletes cannot play in women's sports? That's an 80-20 rule. Where's that? Congress does nothing. Congress sits there and fights with each other over absolutely nothing, gets nothing done, periodically creates shutdowns in this nation. And then we say, well, we don't like the Democrats. We don't like the Republicans. Maybe it's time for a third party. I don't know. We've got to move on, Mike. Thanks so much for the call.
Yeah. Well, let me say something. Yesterday, when I was filming over at Munster, I tried to go to Hammond's night out. I couldn't park my vehicle close, but I called Munster. They parked me right next to there. But I'm walking down there. All of a sudden, a politician comes up to me. I hurried up and stuck my hand in the pocket, had my camera in the other hand. He wanted to shake my hand. I says, I can't shake any politician's hands right now. I says, and I knew who he was. He's running. I says, what are you going to do for us? I says, I can't shake your hand unless you put it in writing and you sign it, that what you're going to do for us people, not you stupid politicians. But have a nice day.
Is the person a current office holder that you're talking about?
I don't want to comment on that situation because he looked at me real weird because I stuck my hand in my pocket. I won't shake his hand.
Enough. Hey,
but
thanks for the call. 845-1100. We're going to move on. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, I know what kind of third party Ron Matlock wants. He wants that mama, baby, daddy, maybe party. What do you think, huh?
Well, you know what? I wouldn't criticize him for that. He actually took a very strong stand. That
on what?
Basically saying about the fact that there are a lot of women who are giving birth to children out of wedlock, and that the fathers take no responsibility. I think that was laudable for him to say. But moving on from Ron, I mean,
he laughed when he said that on the air.
No, he laughed. Okay, and then he called back. He laughed about the comment because he said he thought it was kind of catchy, but he called back and said it again, and he has said that. He was not laughing about it. He was very sincere about that. I can tell you that. I've talked to Ron
When he called,
off the air. He's very sincere.
He may have called back.
This is
Mad
Mac.
Incredible it was.
Let's move on. Let's move on. If we're not going to talk about whether Ron was laughing or not, you've got to have more to talk about than that.
I'll give you what Ron's commitment was. He just told you that the guy running for senator in Michigan, El Assad Mohammed the Unabomber, said that guy's atrocious. And then you said, would you vote for him? It was absolutely not a terrible guy. Well, what if he's the candidate? What if he wins? Well, I'd consider it. Depends on the Republican. There's a guy with commitment there.
All right. Moving on from Ron. What else did you want to talk about, Mad Mac?
Oh, that was it, man. I just thought it was hysterical.
Okay. Well,
Ron says, no, I would never vote for that guy.
Well,
it depends on the Republican. Who would the Republicans have to vote? Hitler, Mussolini, or Satan to get a Democrat not to vote for a Democrat?
Mad Mac, you were a huge supporter and still are a huge supporter of Donald Trump. You support everything that he's done as far as Iran right now?
No.
Okay. Do you support, for example, the fact is that the Republicans have had control of the House and the Senate, and we talk about the Affordable Care Act, yet Bill Cassidy probably had the only bill out there that had any common sense fixes to what we currently have when it comes to the Affordable Health Care Act, and the Republicans wouldn't adopt it either. Okay, we have stalemate in Congress right now. Where's the Voter ID Act? Where is the keeping transgenders out of women's sports? Where are those acts? The Republicans control Congress, and nothing's happening.
60 votes. You're not going to get it.
Well, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to forget the filibuster.
It's an interesting thing to think about, because the threat is when Harry Reid said, he's the one that pulled it off, and that's how we got thank God we've got like a 5.5, 3.5 Supreme Court in favor of things like babies and God and law and order. But the filibuster is an interesting thing.
Yeah, because here's the thing: the president still gets the veto. The president gets the veto, and they have to have a 2/3 majority to override. So isn't that a protection?
I guess it depends on how you look at it. You hate to see what happens if the other guy's getting next time
I agree with you there.
Power, and that's going to happen sooner or later.
But if they get into power, all they have to do is have a procedural vote to get rid of the filibuster. And if you don't think that El Said wouldn't vote, if they ended up with 51 votes, El Said and that ilk would vote for getting rid of the filibuster tomorrow. So maybe the Republicans ought to do the same and stop all the gridlock that exists right now.
And Ron would be voting for every Democrat, even if he said, Ron, we're going to go with Sharia law and we're going to reinstitute the Klan.
But again, we're not here to talk about Ron Matlock's views. We're here to talk about whether where we're at with this gridlock and the idea of a third party. Hey, thanks, Mad Mac. We're going to move on. Good morning. You're on the air.
I know that these whack jobs are running underneath the Democrat ticket, but I think it's a little bit deeper than in a letter like R or a D. I think it's a cult, religious, fanatic group trying to take over Western civilization. That's what I think's going on. They're just running under the canopy of the D.
I think
see
there's
what's going on in Europe.
There's a lot of proof to that, and I was just going to say, take a look at Europe, and also don't discount what's called the Muslim Brotherhood.
No, don't discount that at all.
I mean, look, this idea, Sharia law, I mean, really, Lynette would not be able to work here. All right, she would not be able to work here without somebody escorting her. She could not come to work herself. She wouldn't be able to drive the cleanest car in America by herself. She literally would not be allowed to work. She wouldn't, and the big reason is she wouldn't even be allowed to get an education. I mean,
I wouldn't even be allowed to see that pretty face on YouTube every Wednesday.
You wouldn't see her face. You wouldn't see her hands. You certainly wouldn't see her arms. I mean, right now she'd be taken out and flogged for the fact that she's got on short sleeves and her face is short.
I mean, did you see what went on in Dearborn, Michigan the other day, Tom? The other weekend, that march that they had?
No, I don't think I'm familiar.
No?
No. What are you talking? Maybe I am, and I'm just not recalling.
Oh, the Muslim Brotherhood had like 60,000 person march with their flags, and it didn't look like you're in the USA. I'll tell you that much. You know, they basically took over that town, and that's their whole ideology. Just pick away a little bit at a time. And then eventually they'll capture the whole thing.
Well, look at Minneapolis. Minneapolis has become a hellhole. I mean, it is,
yeah.
and I have a friend that lived in Minneapolis who has said that. That's not from some extreme right or Nick Shirley or anyone else. I mean, it's from people that lived in Minneapolis who said all of a sudden there's just problem after problem after problem, and every third building is either a Leering Center or transportation that never moves. So, I mean, they're having all kinds of problems in Minneapolis. Detroit has the largest Muslim population in the nation. I have no problem with Islam. I have a problem with them trying to invoke their extremist views on us. I have a problem with that.
Well, yeah, and their views are they have that Quran. It has three views. Either if you're not with them, you convert, they tax you, or they kill you.
Right. Nope. You're right. There's no tolerance. There's no tolerance. We have tolerance of other religions, not with Islam. Their view, the extremist view, at least, is that you don't live in peace with each other. You basically you either become us, you are taxed and punished, or they kill you. You're absolutely right. That is their view.
So, hey, do me a favor. I'll let you go. The next commercial break. Just go on your YouTube, on your laptop there, and just Google, look up Dearborn, Michigan March, and your eyes are going to pop out of your head.
I will do that during the break. Thanks so much. Let's take one more call, and then we will go to a break. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, been a listener for about the last 4 months. And it seems what I hear day after day, the same group of people going after each other because of their views. The thing that I don't hear is them quieting down just enough to think about the fact that these views, although diametrically opposed, this country was built on the fact that people are allowed to have these views. And no one wants to take a breath, step back, and give anybody respect anymore. And even though the internet is a great thing, although, anybody with half a brain knows you don't believe 60% of what you read, the whole thing and what you see, the whole thing has created this, I call it a digital divide. It's slicing our country up into so many factions.
Well, wait a minute. I agree with you to a point, but the question of the day is are we to the point with some of the extreme views that are being promoted by individuals running for office? And again, I blame the Democrats and the Republicans. Are we to the point that we need a third party? Because could you support, for example, the stance of Hong or El Said? Could you support getting rid of prisons, getting rid of police?
No.
Okay,
personally, I don't. Personally, I'm a member of a third party.
Okay.
I'm a libertarian. It may not be much of a third party, but I believe in a lot of their platform. But here's the other thing. everybody deserves to have representation in some way, shape, or form, okay? And the reason this is happening, again, is because it is being, everybody is being spoon-fed over the internet. A lot of this, a lot of this discord, disdain, hate. If everybody could just, well, the whole point I was going to make is we need to get back to basics.
I agree.
Number one, take care of your family. Number one, take care of your family. Number two, take care of your neighbors and your neighborhood. Go out when they're outside, just say hello. Ask them how they're doing. Create bonds. That's the problem anymore. You walk down the street, I'm a child of the 70s, 80s. When you used to walk down the street, people would look at each other, smile, sometimes say hi. That doesn't happen anymore.
Well, look, I'm a product of the 60s and 70s, and it used to be that people also sat outside in the evening and spoke to each other, and you're right. They don't do that anymore. Nobody really cares about anybody but themselves. We have become too focused only on our own values and our own needs and nobody else's, and I agree with you on that. But at the end of the day, we're talking about extremist views that have gotten into the two parties, and people are not identifying.
This is how it's happened because people don't talk to each other, don't value each other, and
but extremists, but understand you've got extremists even in the media. People like the folks on The View who basically have told viewers not to go and celebrate holidays with family members who have differing views. I mean, if that were the case, my family would never get together. We have lots of differing views on lots of things, but that's part of the fun of getting together is to argue, to discuss things, but in a friendly manner. And yet you've got pundits on television saying that you should not even get together with your family if they have opposing political views. So we have a discord in this nation that's just out of control.
Exactly. And again, well, you're talking about the fact that, again, because they're not taking care of their family, they're not communicating with their family, with their neighbors, with their neighborhoods. Here, and the bottom line at the end of the day, this is just another way, to continue to create this division, this discord. It's another way to control the masses. And I'm not going to get into conspiracy theory and that, but when you've got 0.5% of the world's population controlling 98% of the world's resources, that's the biggest income inequality that's ever been. And at the end of the day, it's not about Republicans, Democrats, Muslims, Catholics, Baptists, Christians, Jewish people. What it's about is the haves and the have-nots. Because if you look at the trajectory of our country, we are, or were, the greatest nation ever. But anymore, it seems like the way things are getting torn down, they're trying to just turn us into another third world country. And what I mean by they is the haves.
I agree with you. I agree.
The majority of us are the have-nots.
I agree with you from the standpoint we're becoming a third world nation because we've got people who have this idea that they don't have to work, but they should get everything for free. They shouldn't have to put any effort out. Everything should come to them, whether it's an education, whether it's health care, whether it's food, housing, you name it, they just get it for free. I agree with you. Hey, we've got to take a break. Thank you so much for the call. 845-1100. I know we've got plenty of callers holding. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, the TuneIn app, and YouTube Live.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strachan Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
Come to Fox Point Saturday, August 8th for an unforgettable night of classic soul and funk. Solid Ground Band opens for Shining Star, a stunning tribute to the magical music of Earth, Wind, and Fire. This special August 8th concert is free. Bring your appetite and enjoy our bar and delicious local food. Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is just minutes from I-8094 and parking is free. Visit foxpoint.org for details. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
From the gas in your car to the heat in your home and the roads that you drive on, our work powers daily life. We are USW Local 71, the proud men and women of the Whiting Refinery. We're not just refinery workers. We're your friends and neighbors, raising our families here, shopping in the same stores, and cheering in the same stands. USW Local 71, powering the region because we are the region.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention.
Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, business manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
All right, we're back and we've got callers, but before we talk about anything else, I want to mention we have a new app that is being finalized for WJOB, and it was developed by none other than Lynette. I've seen parts of it. It looks really, really good. Extremely professional work by Lynette. We need some people to help demo the app right now. So if you have an Android phone, not an iPhone, we got plenty of people, but Android, you need to contact Jed or myself or the station and let us know if you'd be willing to basically help debug and preview the new app for WJOB. So let us know. You can contact Jed, myself, or the station. All right, let's go back to the callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
All right. You know, I guess Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Thomas Massey came out the other day announcing they're making an effort to create a third party.
I was not aware of that.
Yep. The problem with it is that it takes buku bucks to run for office. Once you get to the congressional level and up, it takes millions and millions of dollars to run for office. In order to do that, you got to find a sponsor, a patron. That's where the corruption comes in.
Well, there are two individuals that come to mind. There's two individuals that come to mind that have talked about supporting a third-party initiative. One is the wealthiest man in history, which is Elon Musk, and another one is Ken Griffin, who's worth about $60 billion.
Well, they can't do it all themselves.
Well,
you know,
actually, I disagree with you. Elon Musk could. I mean, if he's worth $1.3 trillion, he could do it. He could do it without any problem. But I would hope that it's not one person, because I don't want a third party that's controlled by any one person. So I'll agree with you there.
Right. I mean, I don't want anybody's money tainting what's somebody that wants to be a patriot and do the right thing for the country. Looks like Jesus said you can only serve one master. You can't serve the American people and your patron at the same time. I mean, that's not rocket science. The other point I'd like to make, the big reason that this country is hitting the skids, I think, is humanism. People have gotten away. The whole idea of this country, the whole idea of the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the whole founding of this country is based on Christian beliefs. Christianity is what actually created Western civilization. And, with people being ignorant of what Christianity really is about, and it's that we have an immortal soul, we're made by a creator, we're not just humans, and that's it. If they don't really believe that, Western society as a whole, not just here, but in Europe too, same things happening. It will collapse, and it will be run over by these other beliefs, like Sharia law or whatever, because we don't have the belief, we don't have the fire in the belly anymore for Christianity.
Well, have we lost our way from the standpoint of that we seem to bend to such extreme levels to make sure, look, I get the idea of all-inclusive and everybody, we want to treat everybody fairly, but, for example, it's less than, 0.5% of the population that identifies as transgender, yet you've got this buffoon coach of the Lynx the other day wearing a shirt that says transgender children belong. Okay, transgender kids belong at the game against the Fever because she doesn't like the stand that Sophie Cunningham took. The announcers for the game basically sided with the coach and not with where the majority of people are in this nation. Do we? There are these crazy people who call themselves furries who dress up in animal outfits all day and claim that they have all kinds of rights as animals.
Those are wedge issues. All of those are meant to bring this country down. They're weapons.
Right, but the thing is
we
worry about these crazy. We worry about these crazy. Not the majority.
We're getting in the weeds with this because they're going to promote ideas like that. But the point is, the target is to take down our society as it is, our culture. And these are wedge issues. You can't have a communist revolution in a country that everybody is harmonious in. You've got to have wedge issues. You got to divide. You got to pit one against the other, divide and conquer. That's what that's all about. And if people don't realize that, they're going to fall victim to it. All of this malarkey is just meant to give us all fussing and fighting so they can cause friction in society. And then the people will look for an answer, and the answer is going to be socialism, communism, if not Sharia law. I mean, that's all that's about. It's purposeful.
It's just,
they know that they got to weaken society because we got away from our moral beliefs, and we're ripe for being taken, and that's what's happening.
By the way, one good piece of news yesterday: Cori Bush was defeated in her attempt to get back into office. So there was one piece of good news. But look, I agree with you. We've got a weakened society right now. We did part of this with COVID. Okay. In fact, it's interesting. People are talking about the highest number of measles in 35 years. It's also, however, the same number up in Europe, and it's largely because in Europe they said it was largely because of the lockdowns and parents didn't take their kids for vaccines, and that's the reason for the rise in measles.
Right, I talk to people. People are so frustrated, and that little worm Fauci taking the fifth over 100 times last week. Nothing's going to happen to him. It goes on and on and on and on. Epstein, Fauci, on and on and on. Why? Because they're all being protected. What we see in Washington right now is theater. There's nothing going on or political. There's no exchange of real ideas. It all is. They've got an agenda. The people with the money, people with the power. They've got their purpose, what they want to do. Most of it lies overseas. Don't even lie here. They could care less about us unless you want to join the army. But it's all for theater. This whole thing with Congress, it's just okey doke in the public because they figure we're so dumb that they could tell us anything and we'll believe it, and that's on both sides.
All right. Hey, thanks so much for the call. 845-1100 is the number to call, and. Again, we're talking about the possibility of a third party. And look, I'm not, by the way, I want to make clear to everybody, I'm not saying that we should have a third party, but I'm throwing it out there because of the frustration that I have with all that's going on. You've got avowed communists and socialists running for office on the Democrat side, which do not in any way, shape, or form represent the views of people that I know who are Democrats. They certainly don't represent my views. And then you've got people on the Republican end who, again, as the last caller just mentioned, there's lots of things for them to be upset about as well. And so it's to the point where there's so much frustration. Maybe it's time to consider a third party. So love to hear from you, 845-1100. And I should point out, you are listening to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. Station identification right on 7 a.m. There you go. Look, Lynette's smiling. She's like, wow, you got something right today. I want to throw out a few other discussions this morning. So the South Shore yesterday came out and showed a map with a proposed connection from the Hammond station to the proposed Bears Stadium, and said, that they're adding that to their plan. And it got a lot of play on social media and also in the news media that the South Shore was talking about expanding to the Bears Stadium, which would make a lot of sense. If the Bears come to Hammond, that makes sense. But I noticed on the map they also showed some additional extensions. The extension of the Westlake Corridor to Lowell. They showed a new line going all the way out to Valparaiso, an extension of the existing line to downtown South Bend. And so once again, it seems like we've been a little bit duped. I mean, everybody, I saw Mayor McDermott posted it, and everybody and their brothers like, oh boy, this really is a major issue. It must mean that the Bears are coming. And it was largely just they posted a map and said, yeah, if the Bears come, we'll consider running a line to the new Bears Stadium, which would be pretty logical to do. I mean, I would think that would be a line that would get heavily used. So that was one issue that I saw, and I'm again, was it based in fact, or was it just like, sure, we might do that, and it'd be kind of the same if I put out a map that showed that I want to build a monorail between downtown Whiting and downtown Chicago. I mean, it's a nice concept, but is it going to happen? So I think people kind of overreacted to that one. So that was an interesting story yesterday. And then I touched on this before. There's also the story about transgender sports. And Sophie Cunningham, one of my favorite players in the WNBA, and I know Mad Mac is getting ready to call me back because he's going to cajole me about my following Sophie Cunningham. But the fact is that she came out and she spoke up and said that girls should be girls, boys should be boys, and transgender men shouldn't play in women's sports. It's not fair. And she's gotten this massive pushback by the sports media and by the WNBA. And it runs against the grain of the majority of Americans, 80% on up, say that they don't support transgender men playing in women's sports. It was something that was really originally exposed by Riley Gaines probably more than anybody else when she had to compete against Leah Thomas in swimming in college. And I watched the game on Sunday on ABC, and it was ABC ESPN, and the announcers made it sound like the 80-20 was the other way around, that the majority of American people supported transgenders playing in sports. And I was just shocked by it. I was shocked by how liberal the view was and how the announcers made it sound like, I was wrong and that everybody supports transgenders playing in women's sports. And I read an article later from a former sports reporter who said, if you think the mainstream media is liberal, you ought to spend an afternoon talking to sports broadcasters. They're far more extreme to the left than even mainstream media. 845-1100, we've got callers, so let's go to those calls. Good morning, you're on the air.
Tom, good morning.
Good morning.
Matlock is going to vote Democrat every time.
You know what? If he does, he does. But here's the thing. I chastise Mad Mac because I really, if Mad Mac, votes, or if Ron Matlock votes Democrat, Mad Mac's going to vote Republican, so they're going to cancel each other out. But does the world turn on Ron Matlock's vote? And my answer is no. He gets one vote, just like you and I get.
Tom, in these conversations, if you're sitting across from somebody and he looks at you and says, a man can have a baby.
Yeah,
then he says, yes, men should compete against women. At what point do you go, hey, I can't be part of this conversation. I got to get up and walk away?
Pretty early in that one. Pretty early in that one, because I agree with you. I mean, the anybody that goes before a congressional committee and claims that men can get pregnant, they can have a menstrual cycle, they should be laughed right off the dais and removed. I think that's ridiculous stuff.
So at some point, we have to say, I've listened to your opinion, but your opinion is way foul of anything sane. So, Trevor DeVries, can you get him to debate the Scott Hulderson Democrat? The one that the other day on WJOB said, Matlock said, I'm going to send you some money. I'm going to send you some money. Okay, let's get down to the blanky nitty-gritty where Matlock supports Hulderson and also supports Mervan, and Mervan refused to stand when our president said, America first. And he sat there on his hands with his other Democratic cronies that can't wait for the downfall of this country. At what point do you just call baloney on these Democrats?
Well, you know what? I think, though, that there are a lot of Democrats that are extremely frustrated with what's going on. And in a way, you're bringing up a point that I think needs to be considered, and that is they're sitting there, but they're not doing anything about it. Okay? There's very few Democrats that are speaking up right now saying publicly that they're tired of what's going on in the Democratic Party. There's a handful, but the majority just sit there, and you've got, Chuck Schumer, what a buffoon he is, saying that their party is one great big tent because Bill Maher covered that one when Bill Maher said, yeah, you know what's under a big tent? A circus. So you've got clowns in your party. I mean, again, they instead of lashing out saying, look, this is ridiculous. Our party is not for getting rid of prisons. Our party's not for getting rid of police. Our party's not for getting rid of the Department of Defense or Department of War or getting rid of borders. Instead, well, we're one big party. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's just it's
okay,
buffoonery.
Let me ask you this: if they're not against defunding the police, why are we in this debate whether Maryville should fight against a holding facility?
Once again, that was a crazy debate in itself, because there was no actual attempt by Homeland Security to build a detention facility there. It basically came from an article, and all of a sudden, because we know that the news media never lies, because a national publication said that they were looking at Maryville, Indiana. The town of Maryville came out with this resolution saying that they opposed a detention facility, which, again, the Department of Homeland Security, in fact, I think it was Joseph Pete from the Times, even contacted them, and they said, we have no plans to build a facility in Maryville. But right away, you've got, somebody comes up with this. So, you know what? I mean, if I were a reporter, I guess what I'd put out there today is that Bigfoot wants to reside in Maryville. Are they going to, have a resolution welcoming Bigfoot? I mean, really, just because somebody says it, we believe it? I mean, it's kind of the Tony Fauci situation again. I thought we learned our lesson. We weren't going to believe everything that everybody says. We wanted to find some fact with it. And because one publication made that claim, the town of Maryville goes and passes a resolution, which I think was ridiculous.
But it's basically the Maryville Town Council saying, hey, we're against law enforcement.
you know what? I once again, I think that whether you support ICE or not, okay, law enforcement has a responsibility to do what it needs to do. My point is that in this particular case, the town of Maryville went and passed a resolution opposing a facility in their community because one national publication said that they were being looked at. And there was no proof, there was no contact. The town of Maryville admits nobody contacted them. The Department of Homeland Security said, we're not looking there. And yet they made it into this great big issue. And I think that is a secondary comment about how messed up we are.
Tom, I don't care if it was a false rumor. Maryville showed you where they stand on law enforcement.
Well, they showed
their
where
community.
they stood on the issue. You're absolutely right. But I think that the bigger thing is that it's embarrassing that they jumped on an issue that there was no fact to. So, hey, thanks for the call. 845-1100. We've got more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Tom.
Yes.
Tom.
Okay, Ron, if you want to talk about the issues, let's talk about the issues. But please don't go back and respond to Mad Mac, because then Mad Mac calls back and he responds. Let's talk about the issue, okay?
I'm not going back to. I appreciate that gentleman just called and said he defended me. But I was not. Somebody put me on as a racist one time, and I appreciate him because I am not. But let me just go on issues what we're talking about right now. When I was a little boy, 16 years old, I was getting ready to vote, and I said, "Dad, what should I do? Vote Democrat or Republican?" And this is what he told me. And a lot of times we led by what our fathers say because I was too young to know why I'm voting. He said that the Democrats will believe in helping those people who can't help themselves. Basically, I guess, in other words, if I'm
when did you have this conversation? I'd like to know. Tell me when this conversation occurred, though. How old were you?
I was 16. I was getting ready to vote at 18. Yes.
And he told you to vote for the Democrats, and you grew up in Arkansas?
No, Tom, just please, because I could pay for some time, and it takes a little time to tell the story. So I could pay for the time to come on, whatever. But anyway, what he said to me, I didn't know what I should do. Both at the time, I believe Richard Nixon was the president of the United States, and I asked him, and he said that right now, that based on what he said, that the Democratic Party looks like a better party for African Americans in the South. Okay, that's what he said. Because he said that George Wallace, hold on. He said George Wallace is a Democrat. He is no good. He's segregation day, segregation forever. I'm trying to answer your question, in all honesty. And I believe that you believe what I'm saying is true because you've always defended me and Matlock is okay. And I believe I'm still okay, but I'm just saying I was led. So right now, I believe that certain Republicans were good Republicans. I believe that Mike Pence was a good Republican. Okay, so but when I'm hearing his voices, I'm going to always vote Democrat. The gentleman is wrong. He is wrong. Sometimes I abstain, don't vote at all. And you asked me one quick thing, and I'm gonna go off here. I appreciate you. You asked me what if I was how did you put that? About independent. I know one guy ran as an independent. His name was Kennedy, and he ran as an independent. And the first time he got a chance, he jumped over there to Donald Trump, and that's understandable. He was independents. Basically, they have never won an election. So I'm just simply saying that, in all honesty. But again, I might talk to what's the name. I might buy an hour just to tell people how I feel because people really don't know me. Okay,
well, again,
you don't know me.
But I don't think. No offense, but I don't think that'd be a good use of the airwaves. Okay, because we don't need because Ron, we don't need an hour of just your view. What we need is debate and conversation. We need debate and conversation. I appreciate what you're saying. Look, the reason why I asked you about the election is because, and there was a historical direction, and you kind of answered it. So the influence that your dad had on you, okay, which makes a lot of sense, and we love our parents, and our parents have tremendous influences politically. I was asking because of the timing, because I thought you were going to say that you were down in Arkansas and this was before 1964, and I would be surprised that anybody would have said that before 64. Now, you're talking about Richard Nixon is president at that point, so you're talking about the later 60s, and that would make sense, okay? Because Lyndon Johnson did do a lot of things that the black community certainly supported, and so Johnson gave rise to the Democrat support from the African American population. So that makes sense. I was trying to put it in a historical perspective.
Yeah. So all in all, I try to be truthful. And if you there have been questions asked, what do you think about Chicago? I think something is happening terribly over there. Crime. I'm against that. Okay, I happen to be an African American. I don't believe there ought to be that. You might say some black people, you shouldn't have said that. Well, I said, what is true? The case is. I think you just asked me. One guy said I was a supporter and gave Johnson money, which was a lie, and I think you take care of that. Right.
You said before. Again, it's no need to rehash. There are people that are going to call no matter what, and they're going to have their views, and you're going to have your views. But there's no need to rehash. You've said before that you're not supporting Brandon Johnson. You have said before that there are times that you don't always vote for a Democrat. You've said that as well. So okay.
But he's got 8 people running against him now, and he probably will win again.
No, you know what? People. No, he won't, and I'll tell you why. Because the way that primary is going to work, he's going to lose. He's going to lose. The thing that worries me about Chicago elections right now, I'm not a big fan of, for example, this guy Janulius that is the Secretary of State, because he's just an opportunist. I do like Maria Kappas. There are a few people in that race that I like, but Janulius is a front runner all of a sudden. I don't like that guy at all. I think he's just an opportunist.
If you don't have 51%, this will be a runoff. People need to understand the process too.
Right.
If he comes up with 51%, with 8 people, and they're saying about this other guy, Willie Wilson, who's a good guy, he gives out the thing, but he can't win anything.
Well, Willie Wilson's a great guy, and Willie Wilson actually, believe it or not, I've spoken to his assistant before. He has said he wants to come on this program because he's listened to it. But getting him on has been a real challenge, and I'm going to have to go back and revisit that because Willie Wilson's assistant actually contacted me from the company that he owns, and she said that he'd like to come on, and then it kind of fell by the wayside. So I'm going to go revisit that. But I think it's going to be impossible for anybody to get 51%. So I think you're right. It's going to go to a runoff of the top 2.
A runoff. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But again, we won't be rehashing anything. But I just want. I thought, well, maybe if people don't understand who I am and what I don't know nothing about Chicago and Johnson. I don't really keep up with it, really. They really don't. All what they're saying, everything they're saying may be right. I don't know.
All right. Thanks, Ron. All right. Thank you. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got callers, but I'm told we've got to take a break. You're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 of them. Don't forget the TuneIn app and YouTube Live. We'll be right back.
I'm Pastor Eric Boone, pastor of the Tree of Life Church here in the great city of Gary, Indiana. The Notre Dame Credit Union. Go beyond and above to make sure that we are in position to make that greater impact. Listen, this credit union is one of a kind, and I'm looking forward to the future because I know that we will continue to do greater things together, and I'm forever grateful for a credit union like this.
Visit NotreDameFCU.com.
Hey Region, I'm T, and I grew up in East Chicago, went to college in Gary, worked out of Munster, and raised my family in Crown Point. I'm Region to the core. I created Region Hot Sauce, the flavor of the region. Add it to chicken, fish, pizza, eggs, and more for the perfect blend of heat and flavor. Visit RegionHotSauce.com for a complete list of locations or to order direct. Region Hot Sauce, the flavor of the region.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention.
Phones. I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, business manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Have you ever considered becoming an iron worker? Local 395 is now accepting applications for their apprenticeship program. Go to ironworkers395.com. Look under the training section, click on apprenticeship, and scroll down to the application. You must be 18 years old, have a high school diploma or GED, and you must be physically able to perform the work of the trade. Find out more by calling the apprenticeship school in Lake Station at 219-962-7675 or visit ironworkers395.com.
All right, we're back, and we've got plenty of callers, and we'll go right to the calls. Good morning, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hey, tough guy, I'm calling you back about the WNBA. Can you hear me okay or
Yeah,
not?
absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad that you called back because, you know what? I don't know about you if you watched that game Sunday.
You want to chastise me again?
I'm sorry?
I said, you want to chastise me again?
No, I'm give you a compliment for a change. I'm giving you a compliment because I think you have a really good perspective on this. So go ahead and say your piece.
Well, what game are you talking about?
The one Sunday
the Seattle
they lost.
Storm game?
No. The one that they lost to the Lynx. The coach showed up with the Trans Kids Belong shirt, and the Fever lost. It was close, but they did lose. But the announcers on ABC made it sound like everybody supports transgender kids in women's sports. I mean, they were almost extreme in their views.
Well, who do you think they're getting paid by? They're getting paid by the WNBA and the NBA. You think they're going to say anything like, well, we have a little problem with militant lesbians in our league? They're not going to say that. But cheerleaders, they're on the payroll, Tom. What do you expect them to say?
Well, I think that the problem is that what somebody said later in the day was it's indicative of the part of the reason why transgender sports continues to be an issue in the U.S. I mean, it's really a relatively small group of people. It is an issue that most Americans don't support, and the people that are pushing it are largely the very liberal sports media.
Right, but you're watching a broadcast paid by a group of people that believe in that, and they say, listen, if you get on the air and you say, I support Sophie Cunningham's beliefs, you will not be an announcer for the WNBA, for the pro-lesbian crew. Well, if you say, I believe in marriage between a man and a woman, you will not be announcing anymore, and you will be off the payroll.
Well, and what's funny is that the most popular athlete on the planet right now is Sophie Cunningham. Okay, she leads all athletes of any type as far as Google search, as far as social media. She's number one. And if you're the WNBA, maybe you need to take a look because she's drawing in people that have never ever watched the WNBA before, and to me it's probably a little overkill at this point on this issue. But Sophie Cunningham in herself, I mean, everything from her pointing incident to against Bonner to just her outspokenness on different issues. She came out the other day now and on her own podcast said that when it comes to a relationship, that the individuals don't have to sleep together on the first date. She says what's on her mind, and you got to give her credit for saying that. And the WNBA is just missing an opportunity because this woman sold out. Her shoes sold out in 44 minutes, okay? And you can't find them anywhere except in odd size, like a 10.5 women's for $300 on eBay right now. So I mean, she's getting
well,
phenomenal coverage.
She didn't sell 1 million pairs of shoes. Let's not get too crazy here, But yeah, she's definitely a marketing force right now to be reckoned with, and I think hopefully, and praying to God, her 15 minutes of fame go a lot longer for sure. Did you see what happened with the? Because I haven't heard you mention this. The 2 lesbian owners of the Seattle team, when the girl showed up with the sign supporting Sophie Cunningham.
Oh yeah, and they went after her, and the one now has been suspended for 5 games. I mean, to me, that and got a fine. If that were a male owner, if that were a male owner of an NBA team, they would be forced to sell the team. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, she didn't beat him or something or whatever, but she definitely
were kids. They were kids.
Dropping the F-bomb and
effing fanatics. She called them effing
and
fanatics and screamed at them. And these are kids. I mean, leave kids alone. Leave kids alone. You're old enough and rich enough to own a WNBA team. Leave kids alone. I think that was reprehensible. And again, if that were a man, if that were the NBA, they'd be forced to sell their share in the team. So,
well, they wouldn't go that far on that one incident. But I mean, the other thing was a little different. But did Stephen A. Smith came out and supported your girlfriend? What's her name? What's Cunningham? What's her first name again?
Sophie. Yep.
Sophie. What is it? Sophie Cunningham.
Sophie Cunningham. Yep.
Yeah, why did I blank on that? Yeah, he came out and supported her. So did Pat McAfee. And then you see this guy named Travis, Outkick, you know what that is? That sports show or whatever?
Sure.
So he offered, back in 2023, he offered the Las Vegas, whoever the hell they are, the WNBA. He said, I'll give you $1 million if you beat a boys state championship high school team. Now he's come out and he's changed it. It's even got worse. He says, I'll make it $10 million. And he says, it doesn't even have to be a high school state championship team. It can be any varsity team in the country.
Look, Clay Travis,
$10 million. He goes,
Clay Travis is a smart guy. He sold Outkick Sports to a subsidiary of Fox News a few years back. And he's opinionated, he's smart as hell, because I thought that was hilarious when he threw out that challenge, and they're not going to pick him up.
Yeah,
on
so it's up to $10 million now, though. So, hey, by the way, I'm all for Matlock having an hour of a show. He's going to pay for it. Make some money, brother.
All right, man, Mac. Take care.
It'd be funny.
845-1100. We've got more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. How you
Good
doing?
Morning. Good. How are you?
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in real quick on this idea of Maryville and their resolution. Since when is it un-American? You had a caller prior to Matlock talking about how un-American it was to be anti-this and anti-that. Last I looked, it's a free country.
George, I don't disagree with you. I agree they had the right to take a stand. My whole point is that it was based on conjecture. It was just based on one publication making that claim. And I think they probably should have done their homework before they turned it into a bigger issue than it was.
Well, there's a lot of decisions made on conjecture,
That's true.
The mass destruction, Iran, the whole 9 yards. Let's not get carried away on conjecture. That's the least of our problem.
Let me ask you. You and I have known each other for a long time. And at this point, okay, you look at some of the extremist views on both ends. And again, I realize the daunting challenge that would exist of creating a third party, but where does this all end? I mean, there are a lot of issues. I can't support a lot of the things that Hong or El Said is saying as a Democrat. There's no way I can support that stuff.
Then you don't support it. That's where it ends.
But at some point, if this continues, is it to the point where a third party might have a chance?
Well, it might have a chance. Yeah, I mean, at any point that can happen. I mean, you had the Whigs for so long back in the day, and out of them arose the Republican Party. It didn't mean that the Whigs ended that very year that the Republicans arose. It just You had the Republicans. You had Abe Lincoln. Those were the first. They got elected, and the Whigs just died off. I'm just saying. There's the Bull Moose Party back in what was it? Teddy Roosevelt ran on the Bull Moose Party. He wanted to go for another term, and there may have been other offshoots and stuff like that. But who was it? That one guy, John Anderson, had a third party. You had Just Check Under the Hood. What was his name? The guy that ran against Bush.
Oh yeah. The guy with the big ears. Yeah, Ross Perot. Ross Perot.
Yeah.
I mean, but I guess the question is, George. I mean, for example, look, in your case, I'll ask you just to be fair, because I've asked others. But do you support eliminating prisons and eliminating police officers and eliminating the Department of Defense and basically eliminating Thanksgiving and Christmas and all those things? I mean, you don't support any of that crazy crap.
No, but I don't think that guy's saying it seriously. What I do support, a lot of people overlook, is that people in power, one reason people are up in arms about this stuff and saying such, I think they want a total reevaluation of everything is, our people, the power is being abused in this country, especially police power. And the people in office, remember, they take an oath to resist and defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We've got a big domestic problem here in this country with the use of power and authority against the citizenry, and that is what they're hitting against. If you want to get extreme, they're going extreme rhetorically.
Well, I'll give you the perfect example of what you're talking about is when the SWAT team went and raided the family of 6 out in, I think, Virginia a few years ago because he protested in front of an abortion clinic. I think that was absolutely extremist. I think you're right. I think there is some extremism, and there's some there's been lawfare on both sides. One of the biggest disappointments, I think, of this administration is he ran on the argument that lawfare was wrong and it was used against him and his family, and then he gets into office and he's doing exactly what was done to him. And, this eye for an eye business has to stop somewhere. So, I agree with you. But
that starts with Donald Trump. He's the biggest eye for eye guy in the world.
Well, I just said that. I just said that. Well, I just said that. Look, what was done to Donald Trump was wrong, and then Donald Trump doing the exact same thing.
I don't know if it was wrong.
What?
We're not
You mean raiding Mar-a-Lago to get the classified documents, but Joe Biden and what about Joe Biden sitting? What about Joe Biden leaving them next to his Corvette in the garage? That wasn't. They didn't have a big raid on his house.
Then they should have gone after old Joe. I guess.
Well,
they went after his son instead.
Again, he came out. Remember what? But no, because it's a little different on his son. Remember that Joe Biden said it was despicable and it was horrible that Donald Trump had those classified documents, and it ends up that Joe Biden had the same classified documents sitting in his garage, and he was only vice president at the time.
Old documents that were 20-some years old.
No, they weren't. George, that's not true.
They were old documents.
George,
he had when he was a senator and a vice president.
George, those were documents. But he should not have had them. He should not have had them.
Well,
and the documents that Donald Trump, the documents that Donald Trump had were not anymore. We're not any more relevant from what I understand. So hey, we gotta leave it there. We've got John Dabertin in the house. Got to go. Thanks so much. 845-1100 is the number. Why don't we take a very quick break? We'll come back. John Dabertin's in the house. We're going to talk sports and sports medicine as soon as we come back. You're listening to the Morning Call on WJLB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, the TuneIn app, and YouTube Live. Excuse me.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention.
Phones. I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Enjoy the taste of summer at the Farmers Market at Fox Point. Every Tuesday from 9 to 1, shop locally grown fresh produce, delicious baked goods, artisanal treats, and local culinary creations. Just minutes from I-8094, the Farmers Market at Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is a perfect spot to hear acoustic musicians, stretch with morning yoga, and enjoy community fun throughout the season. To see all vendors and entertainment, visit foxpoint.org. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
Plumbers Local 210 is building the future, and we're looking for service plumbers to join our team. Our training center invests nearly $500,000 every year to make sure our members are the best in the industry. From a 5-year apprenticeship and an associate degree at Ivy Tech to ongoing certifications in safety and new technology, our plumbers are trained for excellence. Every member is drug tested and licensed for your safety and peace of mind. When you need plumbing work done, make sure you ask for the license. It's your right to ask.
All right, folks, we're back, and as we do on the first Wednesday of every month, we have John Daugherty here. Good morning, John.
Yeah, good morning. Tom, great to be here. The time keeps flying by. It's been quite the summer.
It sure does. It sure has. And, of course, we're in August.
Yes, we are.
And August basically brings up one particular sport. And what would that be?
That would be high school football.
Yeah, high school football. And of course,
started on Monday in Indiana, starts in Illinois today.
Yeah, and of course, high school football, it's a mainstay of this radio station, has been for decades, and now Heartland Sports, of course. And you had a very interesting article on This Week in the Times. So you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, the issue at this time of year with football has always been heat, and we've spent a lot of time on how to treat heat illness, and we haven't spent enough time on how to prevent it. And in football, the way to prevent it is to treat your linemen differently from the rest of the team. They don't sprint in games generally, so they shouldn't be trained to sprint in practice. And that's how they get in trouble in the first 2 weeks or so of the football season. 97% of heat illness deaths in high school occur to linemen. All of them occur in practice, none occur in games. And if we would just get away from serial sprinting and timed distance runs and punishment runs, then we wouldn't have any of these issues.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. Having linemen run sprints, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It makes no sense because they're stuck at the line of scrimmage blocking and tackling. They never run more than 10 yards because they can't. By the time they've run 10 yards, the running back or receiver is 20 yards downfield.
Right.
Now, do you need to train linebackers and wideouts and running backs, defensive backs? Do you need to train them to sprint? Of course you do. But they have the body types that can withstand the rigors of sprinting in the heat, and linemen do not have the body types. Their bodies retain heat, and when that internal temperature goes up above 104 degrees, you're in trouble very fast. Now you have about 20 to 30 minutes to cool that individual down before you've caused permanent damage and even death.
Yeah, and yesterday for some reason the heat I have to say the heat kind of got to me.
It got hotter. It was an interesting day. It wasn't so bad in the morning.
Right.
It wasn't even bad mid-afternoon. It was worse around 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and the heat and humidity. So I went out and I did some yard work, and I came in, and I was just soaking wet.
Yeah.
And usually I don't have that reaction to the heat, so it kind of surprised me. And Donna went for a bike ride yesterday afternoon, and she came home and she said, "Yeah, I just need a minute. I've got to drink something." She said, "I think I got a little dehydrated." The same response. And so, here's individuals. I mean, you look at me, and obviously I like being outside. I like being in the sun. I've got that skin that basically I don't have to worry, as my doctor tells me. He says, Tom, you're one of the few people that probably never has to worry too much about skin cancer.
Yeah, knock on wood, yeah.
Which is great.
Yep.
And actually, I will, just as an aside, I will admit that one time I actually was staining something and I matched the stain to my arm because I'm a woodworker. Don't ask me to tell that full story, but I did. And yet I still had a reaction to the heat. So you're wearing how many pounds of, gear and pads and,
right.
and the heat is going to be a lot more of an impact on a high school player than it is anybody else.
The other issue you talked about dehydration is dehydration because at the high school level, I don't think coaches think of this often enough, and parents need to think of this more too. Almost 90% of high school athletes start a practice dehydrated. And even worse, just over 50% of professional athletes start their practices dehydrated.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said for that because a few weeks ago I joked about the fact that Donna conned me into riding a long ride out to Gaiety Ice Cream and back. She said, "Well, look, if we go for a long ride."
She didn't con you. She said Gaiety Ice Cream, and you were in.
Right, exactly. But I blame her. But we rode to Gaiety's and back, and before I rode, though, I drank 2 bottles of water.
Good idea.
Because I knew that if I'm going to ride that far, I've got to have that additional water in me. When I get to Gaiety's, I'm having ice cream and fudge and all that stuff. That's not going to keep me hydrated. So I drank 2 bottles, and I took a third bottle with me. But again, the experience of yesterday, I mean, just out of the blue, you felt it.
Yeah.
And, you're right. High school football coaches are probably not always focused on hydration of their players. And even if they are, I think most high school athletes will say, "Oh, yeah, I drank plenty of water, Coach. Right. Sure, I drank 6 bottles this morning." It's like they did not.
And then the final thing with two final things really with high school coaches is they don't know which of their athletes has an upset stomach that morning and couldn't drink, or even if they did drink, because of diarrhea, they're dehydrated no matter how much they've tried to drink, or because of diarrhea, they've avoided drinking. And then the most important thing, especially in some of our schools here in Northwest Indiana, where we have a majority of the athletes are African American, if you have African American athletes in any sport, doesn't just mean football, in any sport, you should know which of those athletes have sickle cell trait, because 10%, roughly, 10% of African Americans have sickle cell trait. And while sickle cell trait is generally harmless compared to sickle cell disease, people with sickle cell trait only have one of the genes instead of, you need 2 to have the full-blown sickle cell disease. But with sickle cell trait, your blood cells will still sickle when your system is stressed, especially in the heat. And when those blood cells start sickling, blood vessels get clogged, and you can get into fatal trouble within minutes.
Yeah, you've talked about this before. It is an issue that black athletes have to be concerned about. That I can remember back in the 1960s first hearing about sickle cell anemia.
Right.
And it was an issue that kind of arose in the 1960s. It was prevalent in the 70s, and then you didn't hear a lot about it.
It's still out there.
And it's still out there. And so
they're better at treating it, but it's still out there. And the people that have it still have a miserable existence because they have sickling episodes without warning for no apparent reason.
So when it comes to dehydration, obviously you need water, okay? You also need some additional minerals, and a lot of these drinks, Powerade and Gatorade and all those fun things have those additional minerals that your body needs. Right. But you can also do a lot of damage by drinking too much of those drinks, correct?
Yeah. Sports drinks belong on the sports field. They don't belong at the dinner table. In general, they're not good for your teeth, among other things. And the sports drinks companies have made a concerted effort recently to reduce sugar in them. Well, if you're using them just on the sports field, they need sugar in them. They need sugar in addition to those electrolytes, those minerals you're talking about, salt and potassium. But you do not need a sports drink at the dinner table. You should not be drinking a sports drink because you're thirsty in the middle of the day in the office.
Hey, 845-1100 questions for John this morning on this. I mean, I've never liked sports drinks. I never have, okay? I will just mention, hopefully people are eating breakfast, but among other things, I've mentioned all the colonoscopies that I had, and I was a part of the study group that one of the preps these days now is you basically take Miralax and dump it into the sports drink, and that's
maybe that's why you're
so that's probably why. But among other things, it's better than the old Go Lightly that they used to have you drink. That was kind of a slimy, nasty drink. But I've never really liked sports drinks. Yet I see a lot of people who drink those things, and you're right, they drink them one after the other, after the other, after the other. And they're full of sugar. They really, I'm told there's a number of issues just drinking too much of them.
The murder on your teeth, absolute murder,
and just not getting enough water to flush your system and to basically cool you down. I mean,
water should be your first line of defense.
Yeah. So for an athlete, how much water should they drink?
Well, the old rule, and it's a pretty good rule, is 8 ounces of water 8 times a day.
Okay, so 64 ounces.
That's a good rule to follow. But prior to, if you're going to go out in a hot workout, you probably need to get down a quart of water before you go out into the heat to start. And then you need to be drinking every 10 to 20 minutes while you're out on the field. And the other thing to keep in mind is your thirst reflex is satisfied after you drink half of the water that you need. So whatever satisfies your thirst during a workout, you should double. 1 cup of water, now I'm not thirsty anymore. Well, you need to drink a second cup.
And also, I mentioned that I mentioned this some years ago, but there's a lot of people that have tried this over the years. Bill Emerson, in fact, has tried it. I mentioned that, once I started drinking a lot of water, I actually lost weight, especially if you drink very cold water first thing in the morning, because it basically causes your metabolism rate to increase. And it's now been proven. There was a study out last year that proved that I was right after my wife told me, oh, that's nonsense. But there is some truth to it.
We need to send you up to the University of Chicago.
Those guys know me way too well. They actually
you should be on the faculty up there.
Yeah, well, actually, one of the doctors that's on the faculty there said to me last year, "Hey, by the way, there's a study," and that's how I found out about the study, because there's a study that proved your theory right about cold water and metabolism.
Well, it gets the kidneys rolling immediately.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and I mean, and I don't think anybody, John, would ever want me on the faculty of any medical school anywhere. I mean, that would be a tragedy. Carolyn Krasinski, who's Carolyn the Busha, was here a few weeks ago for Brogy Fest, and she told Jed this right on the air. In fact, he just walked through that about the time that my daughter Rachel, who basically cut her finger. And I was so frustrated I couldn't get the Band-Aid to stay, so I finally ran down the street, because Carolyn's down the street. She was a nursing supervisor at St. Margaret's at the time, and I say, I can't get the Band-Aid to stick. And Carolyn goes, yeah, well, if you put it on backward, it won't stick. So, yeah, you don't want any medical advice from me, folks. 845-1100, that's for sure. But again, there's value in drinking water. It is kind of a natural. It provides some natural abilities. It flushes the kidneys. It flushes the colon. It gets rid of a lot of impurities in your body. So it's good for that. They find out that it kind of jumpstarts the metabolism rate if it's nice and cold. For older people, that's helpful. And for athletes, the main reason why we're talking, it's essential.
It's essential because the way you cool yourself is you sweat, and you need plenty of water in your system to provide fluid to your sweat glands. When you sweat, as the sweat evaporates on your skin, that is how your body cools itself.
So I think we had this conversation before, but there is a lot to be said about pickle juice.
There is.
And explain that, because that always comes up. I mean, I remember that I think we ate more pickles and had more pickles without juice when my son was playing high school football than any other time that I can remember.
Pickle juice is high in salt, and it is salt, the loss of salt, in addition to the loss of water in your system that causes muscle cramping. And it seems, there's been studies that have shown this, that guys who are having cramping issues during games, they drink a little bit of pickle juice, the cramps tend to go away.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Kane, who, of course, very, very well-respected, very winning coach from Whiting High School football, used to have pickle juice on the side.
Uh-huh.
And
he need it with single platooning like they have to do at Whiting.
Yeah, and I mean, those kids would cramp up, and you'd see them gulping down pickle juice, and they'd be back in the game and have no problems. My son was one of them. So, I had to ask about it because that always comes up. And so there's
I wouldn't recommend it as a normal drink, an everyday drink. Similar to, I don't recommend sports drinks as an everyday drink.
Well, that was going to be the question. So what's the limit on pickle juice when it comes to drinking that, especially if you're a high school athlete?
I'd only be drinking it at practice and if I was having issues with cramping.
Okay.
It's not something I would normally drink. You don't need that. Your body doesn't generally need such a high concentration of salt, because we know the damage salt does to your blood vessels in terms of blood pressure. So
yeah, so it has some real negative effects. It's great for short-term fix, if you will, but it's not something that you should add to your diet.
No.
Yeah. What else? I mean, so we've talked about this before, but heat exhaustion in part is because we don't condition ourselves. We go from an air-conditioned room, and by the way, the air conditioning, Jed, you're here, so you're listening. The air conditioning's working.
It's working compared to the last time I was here.
Yes, absolutely. So you thought, wow, I'm going to go to WJOB and lose 10 pounds and then go on for my day. Yeah, no, yes, he fixed the air, but the fact is that we go from an air-conditioned office to an air-conditioned car, an air-conditioned home, and then we go outside, and especially for high school football players, they go from their air-conditioned homes and air-conditioned classrooms out to the field, and it's hot as hell.
They're not heat acclimatized.
Yeah, and so are there any suggestions that you can use to kind of climatize yourself?
You need to start exercising in the heat 2 weeks before you're going to start practicing, say, in football, for football or soccer or cross country. You need to gradually build up your resistance, for lack of a better term, to the heat, and it takes 10 to 14 days to heat acclimatize. You need to be outside in the heat, exercising, and gradually increasing your tolerance to the heat. So and you can't count on every athlete doing that. That's why the first couple of days of practice, and it probably should be longer, but at least the first couple of days in practice in football in Indiana, they can't wear any pads.
And we've got a caller, so let's go to that call. Good morning, you're on the air.
This is Ron Matlock. What do you think of energy drinks? I'll hang up and you ask my question.
They're poison.
All right. Yeah, that was Ron. That was Mad Mac.
That was Mad Mac.
Yes, but
energy drinks are poison. Unfortunately, In my experience, it's been 12 years now since I was on a sideline, but quite frequently on Friday nights, I would end up at the emergency room with an injured athlete from one of my teams. But you would also find athletes there that were in the emergency room because they were having heart issues because they drank an energy drink prior to the game. That jolt of caffeine and the other stimulants that are in energy drinks, that puts your heart in a position right out of the gate where now it has no reserve. And if you get into some kind of metabolic trouble, now you have no reserve and you end up with serious heart rhythm issues. Energy drinks are absolute poison. I guess in this day and age, I'm not surprised, but I can't believe the FDA ever allowed them to get on the market in the first place.
You know, I again, not a huge fan, but I did drink a Red Bull one day.
Uh-huh.
And boy, did I feel it.
What a jolt.
And this is a guy who, I told the stories over the years. I mean, there's not a day that I don't have, a caffeinated cola. But wow.
A low dose of caffeine, I say this with caution, but a low dose of caffeine from 1 cup of coffee or 1 cola is actually a performance enhancer. But when you get into high doses of caffeine, you put yourself in serious metabolic trouble without realizing right out of the gate.
Yeah, well, we're talking about a guy that drinks between 1 quart and 2 quarts of caffeinated pop a day. So, and yet I could feel the difference. That's what shocked me is that, and this was a Red Bull, and it was like, wow.
Yes.
I could really feel the difference. And where I felt it was I felt it in my heart rate.
I'm surprised we don't hear about it more from physicians, especially emergency room physicians. Every Friday night, ERs all over the country are full of football players who got into some kind of heart rhythm trouble because they had an energy drink prior to the game.
Well, and by the way, there are, and hopefully no high school athlete would ever be taking these, but there are all kinds of energy supplements now, energy drinks, and even performance enhancement drugs and drinks online, especially for older individuals.
Yeah, you can find that stuff.
And
sadly,
it's
all over.
just bad news.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's bad news. I mean, I'm sorry, but what's the one that? And I know it's kind of a wink and nod that they say energy enhancement, but it's Frank Thomas and Doug Flutie pushing whatever that is.
Precursors of testosterone.
Yes. And that stuff is it's just filled with caffeine. And it's just filled with a bunch of stuff that either doesn't help you or is going to hurt you.
Ken Kroner, who works at Fitness Point as a personal trainer and used to be strength and conditioning coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. Ken's local Munster guy. Played at Munster High, then played basketball at Butler. But anyways, when Ken was with the Eagles, he had a line for me that stuck with me forever for parents. Parents should be very aware of what their children are putting in their bodies. And if they're doing some kind of supplementing, whether it's through a drink or some kind of mix that they're putting in drinks or adding to their food somehow or other with a powder, if the parent can't pronounce the ingredients, then the kid probably shouldn't be taking it.
Yeah, I mean, again, it to me it's a real letdown because I was a huge Frank Thomas fan. I felt that he was
Doug Flutie's
chastised.
right with him.
Well, but in the case of Thomas, he stood up and he took all the grief. Made the accusations about the use of steroids and all these enhancing drugs when he played for the White Sox, and took a lot of grief at the time. History's proven him right, and then he's out as a spokesman for this nonsense stuff that basically isn't going to do any good, but it's going to do a lot of harm.
Yeah,
I think
it is disappointing.
It really tarnished his reputation. I mean, Flutie, to a point, but Flutie wasn't, at the forefront of the argument on steroids that Frank Thomas
it was never wasn't an issue for him when he was playing professionally.
So, in the time we have left, let's talk baseball for a minute because
I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah, because
my Boston Red Sox with the White Sox last night.
Yeah, well, you take a look at some of the some of the trades that just went on, basically for running out the stretch and into the playoffs, and it looks like the Cubs did pretty well.
The Cubs did well.
The White Sox.
I'm not sure what they got there with the pitcher from the Blue Jays.
Well, he's
got an
old.
ERA of 5.5, and he's old.
He's old,
yeah.
and you know, I mean, I know some people are saying, well, it's like another Contreras, but we'll see. And then their catcher Bart, okay,
yeah.
But the Cubs did well. The Dodgers did very well.
Did very well, but the Dodgers have lost 5 straight now. Three in a row to the Red Sox and 2 to the Cubs.
Yeah, the Dodgers, though, I think at the end of the day are going to be tough to beat.
They and the Brewers are
the
clearly
Dodgers and the Brewers,
2 best teams in.
I mean, the American League. I'll give it to you. The Red Sox.
The Red Sox are red hot.
Yeah, the Red Sox are red hot, and I think they this could be their year. I'm a White Sox fan. I'm happy as can be that the White Sox are actually winning.
They've really turned it around.
They have totally turned it around. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I was ready to.
You're ready for another 100 losses.
Oh,
again.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it looked like we were going that way, but they've turned it around. So they've done well.
Good young talent.
But I don't think they're ready to go beyond.
They're not a World Series championship team. Now, I hope they make me eat my words, but.
Yeah, I don't think
it was a couple of years ago. A pretty mediocre Arizona team got into the playoffs as the last wild card, won the World Series.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't see that on the White Sox at all. But I do think the Red Sox are a formidable contender. I think the Dodgers, and I will say that the Cubs. I wouldn't discount them.
The Cubs are really good.
Yeah, I would not discount the Cubs. And then the other in the last 2 minutes. The WNBA, kind of a disappointment against the Lynx the other day, but 5 in a row is tough to continue.
I'd like to see the WNBA focusing on the results of games and play on the floor, and
all the other stuff.
All the other peripheral stuff isn't helping that league. It's
no, it's not. I'll end with this. Mad Mac brought it up earlier. Clay Travis, Outkick Sports. Put a $10 million
I heard you discussing that on the way in.
You know, he said he'll take a state championship boys team from anywhere in the United States and have them play the Phoenix Mercury team, and he'll give $10 million if Phoenix beats the high school team.
No, I have no doubt. There would be some high school teams that wouldn't be able to pay off that bet. But a half-decent boys' high school team would pay off that bet. For
number
Travis.
One, they can dunk.
Exactly.
Okay, they can dunk.
They get up and down the floor twice as fast.
They get up and down the floor twice as fast than they can dunk.
Yeah.
And that's
they'll get every rebound.
Yeah, that's just gonna be tough. And again, I love watching the WNBA. I'm going to the Fever Sky game in Chicago on Saturday.
Good.
So I'll have plenty to talk about next week. And I know Mad Mac, yes, Donna and I are going early so we can see if we can get an autograph.
All right.
We've got a picture of our dog, which is named Sophie Cunningham. So we're going to see if Sophie Cunningham, the athlete, will autograph it for us. But it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch. But when you look at his challenge, yeah, there's no takers on that challenge.
Well, some people know this, but it's probably largely a secret. All women's college basketball teams, their practice squads are guys.
Right.
And every once in a while, the coach will turn the guys loose in a scrimmage. They're told they're told to play hard, but not to try to dominate. But every once in a while, just to be fair to the guys that do this every day in practice, the coach will turn them loose.
Right.
They destroy those girls' teams in practice.
Well, a lot of the WNBA teams actually have practice squads that are men, and I will I'll turn the tables for a minute. When I was coaching my son in middle school, I actually brought in a couple of girls to play defense against the boys, and the reason why was I said, look.
Fundamentally sound.
Yeah. And their defense at that age group was better than the boys and kind of taught them a lesson. So
Sure.
there you go. All right. Hey,
we're past time.
We're past time. We're out of time. John Daugherty, thank you so much for
Thanks
being
for having
here.
me. Great to be
Always
here,
a
Tom,
pleasure.
always.
And we'll be right back with more of the Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We'll be right back.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Labor's District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
Do you like to work with your hands, creating something from nothing? Then think about Laborers Local 41. You'll get 432 hours of apprenticeship training, all while earning a wage with benefits and incurring no student debt. You'll travel to different job sites, learn tons of skills, and in a lot of cases, be the first one on and the last one off a job site. It all starts at laborers41.com.
Fishing for a seafood meal without the stress or mess of cooking? Leave the work to the Strachan Van Til Seafood Department. For just $1 extra per pound, we'll fry, grill, or steam your fish with your choice of 3 kinds of breading. Try our fish and seafood dinners. Each includes a half pound each of seafood and fries, and a quarter pound of coleslaw. Want the freshest catch in town? Reel in the fish and seafood selections from your local Strachan Van Til.
All right, folks, we're back, and let's just take a quick look at traffic and weather. It's been a long morning, and traffic, basically 80, 94, I-65, the toll road, all look pretty decent. Klein Avenue has the road construction, so I kind of avoid that area between, say, 80, 94 and Airport Road. Across the line in Illinois, not looking too bad until you get to the Ryan, which is a parking lot. Interestingly enough, not looking bad on I-57 or on the Bishop Ford. Skyway looks fine until you get to the Ryan. The Ryan's backing up now at 51st, which isn't awful, but it's solid all the way into the circle. You can forget the Kennedy this morning. You can forget the Eisenhower, probably the Stevenson. Your best bet around the city is going to be 294. With that, let's do weather.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 73 degrees with highs of 84 and lows of 67. It's going to be mostly cloudy and humid with some rain and a thunderstorm in the morning, then a heavy thunderstorm later in the afternoon. And tomorrow on Thursday we'll be having highs of 76 and lows of 66 with periods of clouds and sunshine with widely separated thunderstorms and humid. And Friday we'll be having highs of 84 and lows of 68 with partial sunshine and a thunderstorm and humid.
All right, there you have it, traffic and weather, and we've got callers. Let's go to those callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Tom. If I could just call back, I
Sure.
was reading in the Times today that the Hammond teachers have picketed the BP because of the lockout, and they're urging everybody to boycott BP stations and Amoco stations. I just like to let everybody know, if they can, that doesn't really hurt BP at all. The only one that's going to hurt are the franchise owners that own those stations.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt the BP oil, it's going to hurt the franchise owners and the station owners. You're right about that. But, at the same time, this strike with BP, and you worked out there, so you know it, you understand it better than most callers. This has just got to end. I mean, they really don't care.
The thing, right, if people want to actually do something, I know people have contacted Mervan's office about it. I called the White House for what good that'll do. I don't understand why President Trump hadn't gotten involved in this, because they were in the middle of a war. The prices are skyrocketing as far as gas and oil and everything, and you got the midterms coming up. And from what I understand, I think the production of that place has dropped significantly since this lockout started. And it's got to, and now I think it's this Friday, the Indiana governor has taken off the holiday on gas taxes in Indiana, so that's going to be a major jump in gas prices around here. I would think the Trump administration should get involved in this after all this time.
Well, I agree with you there. I would think that they would be looking to do something at this point. That's too important of a refinery. It has too much of an impact on the price of oil, and we were talking earlier about whether Trump is going to lean on the refiners and the gas station owners anyway to drop the price of gas. I would think that'd be an easy pickings. He obviously is in contact with Mike Braun, the governor of Indiana. Braun has taken a very active role in trying to get the parties back to the table. So I would think that for Trump to weigh in would be an easy move on his part.
It's happened in the past. I think, what was it, Eisenhower, somebody stopped in to stop a steel strike, or was it Truman? I don't even remember. But anyway, and the other thing, too, BP supplies all these gas stations around there with their lower-grade gasoline. So boycotting a BP station isn't going to do anything at all, really, except hurt the guy that owns it.
Yeah, you're right. You're not gonna hurt the people that you want to hurt, right? I mean, you're basically hurting the wrong people. But it was it certainly was a nice gesture. I know that we've got the we've got the show with the chamber this morning, and I'm going to ask Joe Merzen, of course, to give an update. They raised some money for the strikers at Pierogi Fest, so we'll bring that up as well.
I read an article the other week about under this Agenda 2030 scam they got going. All these major oil companies have agreed to actually reduce production in the Western Hemisphere. They want to shift everything over to the Eastern Hemisphere. They call it east of the Suez. They want to build more refineries and capabilities in the Eastern Hemisphere, but starve out the Western Hemisphere for whatever kind of cockamamie idea they've got on greening everything. But this isn't just some BP cooked up. Just about every major oil company has agreed to reduce their product significantly over the next. They got two different targets. I think 2030. And BP, I think, is announced they want to be completely out of the oil business by 2050. So this is really going to put a hurt on Western society if these guys are going to starve us all for energy.
We forget that BP was a driving force behind the windmill collection down on I-65 and US 41 in Indiana.
Right, and it's a boondoggle. Everybody, it's like even Trump himself when he was first running for president says, honey, can we watch TV today? Is the wind blowing? It's ridiculous, and they know this isn't going to work. The whole thing is about austerity.
Well, again, the windmills were a fix that didn't work. The solar panels, I don't think are that great either. And Phil Patempa has been on here before talking about the impact of solar farms on agricultural land, especially rich agricultural land in Indiana. But there are a lot of opportunities to create energy that we've not looked at. I mean, we've talked about package reactors. That's important. There's others. There's the idea of basically using the power of waves to basically, if you put these devices offshore and they can be moved by wave action, that basically it would produce a lot more energy than the solar farms or the windmills ever would. Hey, thanks so much for the call. Thank you. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, it's George again. You cut me off, man.
No, George, sorry. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was going to ask you a call back, but we had John Dabertin, and he was sitting there, so he had to get going on John. John.
Just real quickly, 2 points.
Yeah.
When Matlock was speaking, he said he voted at 16. You can't vote when you're 16.
No. He didn't say that. No, he said when he was 16, he asked his dad because he was going to be voting when he was 18. He did say that.
Okay. I didn't catch the 18 part.
Yeah, no, the 16 would be very hard. Very hard. Not a problem.
Yeah, and with respect to Leo, you remember the Youngstown Steel thing when Truman went in? The Supreme Court stripped him of that authority to intervene like that, and that was during the Korean War. So that's why there can't be any real presidential intervention, I guess, for want of a better term. The Youngstown Steel, 1952. So
yeah, there were a couple of times where they nationalized. Truman was probably more willing to nationalize operations than anybody else. He took on the trains, and then he took on the mills. And you're right, the mill that failed. And I don't know. I do think though that from a bully pulpit standpoint, Donald Trump.
Pulpit's a different story, though.
Yeah, Donald Trump should probably jump on the bandwagon. But I mean, look, you and I live up there, and does it seem odd to you, George, or is it my imagination, I should say, or am I right about this? There have been more flaring incidents at BP, it seems, in the last 6 months than I remember in the norm. I mean, you've heard them. They're
running skeleton crews.
Yeah, and
they're running skeleton crews up there.
And it's kind of dangerous, isn't it?
Manning the ship.
Yeah, and it's a
Nobody's
little
manning
dangerous.
The ship, man. Are you kidding?
I mean, they had.
Yeah.
Well,
Bring your own fireworks.
Was it a week ago Sunday? You walked outside, and I mean, you and I actually live just about a block or two apart from each other, and we're pretty far away from that refinery. But man, I walked outside, and I actually thought I had like an air compressor on in the garage. I could hear it so loud.
That's that new administrative team of BP bringing in there. She did the same thing down in Houston. People know that by now. That's that same thing she did in Texas. So it's again, it's a lockout now. It's not a strike. So I don't know. I mean,
but also, I mean, look, if I play music in my yard, okay, and you could hear it at your house, you could call the police, and they'd come over and tell me to turn it down. Yet you and I will, walk outside, and you can hear BP oil flaring, or relieving air pressure from White and Clean Energy is the other one that always produces a lot of noise, and that's like 2.5 miles from our homes.
Well, you'd have to bring a public nuisance type of thing, but who wants to bear the brunt of bringing an action for a TRO or something like that? And that's unless you get a bunch of people together, maybe that's the way to go. Some sort of a representative or class action, and get people together and file something. Say, hey, tone this thing down. Yeah, so you could do it that way, but
it just doesn't seem like they really, that BP cares, and it's scary because, like you said, they're running with a skeleton crew. They're running with we both see it lots these days. People notice in Whiting and Robertsdale. Correct me if I'm wrong. They notice out of state plates. I mean, we don't care too much about Illinois unless the person's been living there for some time. But you sure see a lot of Texas and Louisiana plates around town right now.
Yeah, that's how strike breakers roll. I mean, it's been that way from time since the union started, going back to Eugene Debs probably in the railroads. So they bring them in from wherever they're anti-union people, or they can muster up thugs or whatever to strike breakers, and that's what they're out to do. They're out to crush the union. Or else get them to bend to their will. And by the same token, I'm probably going to get me in trouble, but I think the unions really need to reevaluate their position and see and maybe not try to get everything in one fell swoop. And maybe I know what they're going to say. We bargained, we earned this stuff over the time past. They want us to give it back, and that's true. But on the other hand, you're dealing with a multinational corporation of immense wealth, and they can outlast you. I mean, I don't know how the inner workings work with respect to what do you do with scabs and stuff. Do you keep them on forever if the impasse of the union doesn't break or anything like that? But there's got to be some reevaluation. Maybe live to fight another day or something. I don't know.
There's got to be some give and take.
Right.
Yeah, there's got to be some give and take at this point. I mean, you're right about that. You can't continue. You always have to size up where you're at. I mean, I've done a lot of union negotiations over the years, and I always represent the employer. But luckily, I've been able to convince the union to be reasonable and to size up the situation where they're at. The private sector, of course, is a lot different than the public sector. I've done both. The private sector, it seems like there's a lot more gamesmanship when I've done private sector, and even sometimes as the negotiator, I find out things that the owners of the company or the company weren't totally forthright with me about. And the union will come in and say, really? Well, what about, this, and this? And they pull out some copy of some document that, I didn't even know about. So I've had that happen too. But I
think you nailed it right on the head, Tom, right there. Gamesmanship. That's what all this is about.
Yeah.
It's all gamesmanship.
It just is. And the thing is that what's really bad is that there's so many lives. I mean, people say, well, it's 800 lives. Well, it's 800 workers, but it's probably 2,000 lives or 2,400 lives by the time you figure in spouses and families. And, so it's
not to mention how their money works and multiplies.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to get. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's Wings Wednesday at Center Lounge, and I'll probably go there for wings tonight. I mean, they have great wings. You and I both know that. But, so she gets impacted as a small business because a lot of people are saying, well, now we've been on strike now for how many months? We can't afford to go eat out. So it impacts her, and then that impacts her needs of how many people she has working in the dining room or in the kitchen or at the bar. And it just, and then those people basically have to cut back. So it has a huge impact on an awful lot of people. It's more than, I had somebody say to me the other day, it's just 800. It's just 800 individuals. Well, it's 800 times 3 times, how many, and by the time you extrapolate out that number, you're talking about thousands upon thousands of people being affected by the strike.
Yeah, that ripple effect. You got what I call a conflicting ripple effect. You got things going out and things coming in at the same time. I don't know what you call that, where the waves are going both ways. Everything's rippling out against each other, and that's maybe what they call a stalemate. I don't know. It's just, but she's out there to crush the union, and I don't really understand that, to be honest with you. All these companies, they belong to all kinds of organizations. All kinds. Think about it. You've got whether you make ropes or you make steel, you belong to all kinds. You're allowed to organize. These companies are very much organized.
Yep.
But when a worker organizes, whoa, it's socialism. Whoa, it's communism. I don't buy that. I don't know where they get that.
You know what?
Everybody else can organize. Physicians can organize. Engineers can organize. But when a worker does it, it's a bad thing. I just don't buy it.
I'll tell you what, I've had experiences on both sides with and without unions, and I think with unions, it's just more straightforward. I'm not advocating everybody get a union contract, but I think it's very straightforward. I used to work for a company where we had union and union-free strategies. And finally, we had a vice president who said to me one day, Tom, I think we spent a lot more money on the union-free strategy than we spent on the union strategy. We ought to just allow them all to organize and become union because it'd be cheaper for us. I mean,
well, yeah, you've got an administrative framework.
Yeah, here, okay, so and again, this doesn't work in every operation. I'm not suggesting that everybody needs to be union, but in that particular case, it was a manufacturer that I worked for, and they would spend, the union was pretty laid out. Okay. They had, the union labor, the management labor committee. They had, basically union management committee. They had a safety committee. They had a few things, and they knew exactly what was defined because it was in the contract. The non-union operations, they had a labor management committee, which was largely just like the union and management. They elected people to represent the employees on that committee. The employees there were always threatening that they were going to go ahead and organize, so the company would give them more money. At the end of the day, this vice president, again, one day he sits down with me and he says, Tom, and his name was Leo, and he goes, Tom, I think it'd be cheaper for us to just let everybody organize and become union instead of all these efforts to organize the employees and create this kind of false sense of a union anyway. I mean, if you got an employee management committee, well, it's doing the same thing. It's representing the employees, representing their concerns. They had the right to have another employee in if they were being disciplined. I mean, it really mirrored a union environment anyway.
Yeah, well, sometimes, like I said, it can work. I was part of one of those out in California in the aerospace industry, and a lot of guys are asking me all the time, it's pushed to organize and organize and organize. I said, listen, we got a contract with these people. That's all that really counts. And they were telling me I was anti-union. I said, no, we got a contract. That's what we got. That's what we wanted. As long as we got a contract, we have an administrative avenue of enforcing it and getting people to comply with the terms. I go, what do we need, a union for? That was my argument. Of course, I was in my 20s and full of optimism. But I still think that it's viable in some places. It wasn't a big company. Okay, it only had maybe 200 workers, I think, something like that. So we worked on the space shuttle program, and so it worked. But I don't know if the company would have been bigger, say like 800, let's say. Maybe you do need a more formal structure with the grievance processes and all the other administrative hoops and stuff before you have standing to push it further, yada, yada, yada. But again, you got more experience in that than probably anybody on the air here. So,
well, I actually counted up. I actually counted up how many contracts I've negotiated. I've done over 100, so I'm kind of proud of that with 12 different unions. But again, I think this case. Somebody said to me, "Well, okay, you've got all this experience. Would you want to sit down at the table with the situation at BP right now?" I said, "Absolutely not," because you've got parties. You've got one that basically doesn't even understand the culture, that doesn't understand the impact. They're far removed. They're in another country. They're in London. They have different views of things, and I don't see them. I don't see them moving anytime soon. I really don't. I mean, I think probably the best bet that the strikers or those being locked out right now would be what the one caller mentioned earlier, which is maybe the bully pulpit of the presidency, maybe, just because I think Trump can lean on them pretty hard right now.
But isn't there a point where you reach where if you're just holding out to break the union, that is an illegal position? I think that is the contention of the union. You're not really bargaining in good faith, or they're not bargaining in good faith. The company is just out to break the union. So they're constantly being met with false contentions, false criticism, stuff like that, all geared to starve out the workers so that they accept whatever, that they're not really bargaining anymore. They're just blocking everything so that until it's a starve-out mechanism, like you call it. At some point,
the issue could probably end up in court. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, but what the courts will do, the best case scenario is if you get a court involved, basically if they can show unfair labor practices on the part of BP, they can probably go to court. They can probably get a TRO that reinstates the employees. But as far as addressing any new language, any new raises, anything like that, no court is going to be able to order those kinds of things. So it's a stalemate.
And then again, maybe they're looking to create a case that gets into court so that they can take their chances with this Supreme Court or maybe the upper appellate divisions to rewrite some of the construals and interpretations and constructions given to labor law, whether it's Taft-Hartley or whatever the case may be, about contracting and stuff like that, and relationships, labor management relationships. Maybe they want to rewrite or massage. Insurance companies are notorious for deliberately getting into court and denying coverage to get into court so they can massage contractual provisions that have been construed in a certain way, and then get a little tweak here, and then over a couple periods, over a period of years, suddenly there's a whole different 180-degree construction on a particular aspect of insurance coverage. They're notorious for this. So the most litigious industry in the United States is insurance. And why? Because they're always in court, always. So tweaking how to construe their contracts. It's kind of like, I've got a full coverage contract, and that's got a whole bunch of exceptions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the only, that is, by the way, that is also consideration, which is if the insurance companies decide that the operation becomes unsafe, that might cause them to go back and bargain in earnest. I've seen that happen. I was involved with
somebody's making a record, though. Somebody's following it, making a record.
I was involved with a contract a couple of years ago where basically OSHA started really tightening the screws on the company, and it brought them back to the table. So sometimes that does have an impact, because it wasn't that they were concerned about OSHA; they were concerned about their insurance company instead.
Well, that's perfectly rational.
That was problematic. Hey, George, thanks so much for calling back, and you are the last caller of the morning call for today, because we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's the Whiting-Robertsdale Chamber of Commerce show, and I see that Joe Merzen has donuts in his hand today, so he's going to start off the show in a good shape, because I'll take one of those. And don't forget, we're going to start this whole thing up again tomorrow at 6 a.m. and at 7 a.m. Alvin Cheeks is going to join me. He's a community organizer in Hammond, but he's going to join me. He's going to talk about some of the gun violence that's going on, and has a very unique understanding and perspective when it comes to guns. So he's going to be on at 7 o'clock hour. So keep it tuned right here for the morning call tomorrow morning beginning at 6 a.m. When we come back from the break, it's going to be the Whiting-Robertsdale Chamber of Commerce show.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up.